Hey, this is Issara with UX in Motion, and I've got a kick-ass lesson for you today. I think you're going to like this tutorial. This is how to make this cool button thing that this one dude, his name is Colin Garven, busted out a little while ago, and it's super tight. About a year and a half ago, actually. It's kind of an oldie, but it's really cool. I'm going to show you how to make it in After Effects. And before I get started, I just want to say I'm using this design kit from UI8. They have this material design kit. It's super badass. You can pick it up. It'll save you a whole bunch of time if you're designing material style stuff. That's what I'll say about that. Oh, and if you haven't, if you've wanted to get into learning about how to animate your UI projects in After Effects, but you don't know how to get started, just go over to uxinmotion.net, click this, put in your email right here, and I will send you this badass free video. You can just click this and watch it, and it totally demystifies the entire process. It's a training I wish somebody had made for me when I first started this. This is for designers and non like animators. If you've never worked on a timeline, it's perfect for you. And also, I will say, if you are wanting to go deeper with this stuff too, you can pick up my Rapid Prototyping with After Effects Complete UI Animation Fundamentals Training. This will turn you into a badass, as it has other designers around the world. So you can just go to uxinmotion.net, Rapid Prototyping with After Effects launch. Okay, cool. Let's rock this beast. So this is what we're going to work on and make. So you see this. It's only a couple layers here in After Effects, but if I were to show you the keyframes, you might start to get really excited. So let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead and just import my PSD here. Boom. Okay, this is it. Now, before we get started, I'm just going to pop over into Photoshop and show you a couple things so you can set yourself up for success and to avoid getting like tripped up. So this text layer here, this is just the title. That's fine. There's nothing cool going on with that. The check mark as well, we're not doing a whole lot with that. But the button shape, this is a smart a shape layer, that is, in Photoshop. And it comes through as a layer with a mask, and we're going to use that mask data and create a what's called a shape layer in After Effects. I think I used the shape layer twice in a very confusing way. It's not that confusing at all, you'll see. And then I flattened all the rest of the background into just this one UI thing, because we're not going to be working with it, so it's just in the back, just chilling. So let's check it out. Okay, so check this out. So the button layer, it is a whatever it's called, a shape layer in Photoshop. It comes through as what's called a shape layer in After Effects as well. Sorry, it does not. It comes across as a normal layer with a mask on it. I'm just trying to make this as confusing as possible. The whole point is that we're going to make a shape layer in After Effects from the mask data. Yeah, dude. All right, awesome. So the way we can do that is if you hit M on your keyboard, M for marsupial, and it'll view the mask path. You want to make sure this is twirled down and click where it says mask path and just do Command C and copy that. And that's great. And now what we're going to do is make a shape layer. So you can go up to Layer, New, Shape Layer down here. I often just Control click in this region and just go New Shape Layer. Same thing. So if you haven't worked with shape layers before, they're really, really cool, but there's a logic to them that I want to make sure you get. So I did bring in some guides here. I'm just going to hit Command : on the keyboard to bring up the guides. I'm going to twirl down this shape layer, and it's going to be blank. There's nothing in the shape layer right now. All it has is this anchor point, but there isn't really anything there. So where it says add right here, and again, you just kind of twirl this dude down. Where it says add, you're going to add a path. Cool. I'm going to twirl this down and click where it says path. And you're going to hit Command V, paste that in, and then use your arrow keys to just kind of nudge this around. The idea is that it's going to be in the middle here. One of the interesting things about After Effects is when you stroke something, you don't have the option to put the stroke in the inside, which is really convenient sometimes. It just kind of defaults to the middle. You can't really do anything about that. So that's why I made the guides like this. You don't need to worry about that a whole lot. But all we did at this point is just made a blank shape. So if I just unview this button right here, we can see it's just literally a path. So now we can go ahead and add cool stuff like a fill. So I'm going to add a fill and then twirl this down, and I want to change that fill to be orange. I'm going to hide it temporarily and then use the eyedropper tool, boom, to select that color and turn it back on, and now I've made that. And I also want to add a stroke here. So add a stroke, cool. And I want to mess with that stroke color as well. I want this to be the same color to start. Awesome, great. Really happy with that, except what I want it to do is it's actually a stroke width of 10. Booyah. All right, cool. So now we have a path, a stroke, and a fill. Okay, now the crazy thing, that all might have made sense. Crazy thing is that if you select all three of these and hit Command G, it actually creates its own group, which is awesome. So we're going to call this bottom. And if you hit Command D, it'll duplicate that group. I'm going to call that top. Now I'm just going to twirl this down and delete my fill. We just want the stroke on this guy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this thing called a trim paths. And if you haven't seen this one, I have a whole separate tutorial on just this trim paths tool. Okay, so that's awesome. Now to test out that this is working, because sometimes this trim paths thing can be kind of finicky, I'm going to hide this bottom layer right now, and I'm going to hide this button layer. So we're just viewing with this top layer. It's just a path, trim paths, and a stroke. I'm going to twirl down my trim paths, and I'm just going to back this off. And what it does, it's really cool. It basically just gives you a tool to animate your stroke, which I think is great, which is really, really cool. And I'm going to double check this by turning on my bottom layer and turning off my top layer, because sometimes what'll happen is the I've had it like not selectively, it'll just grab everything below it, which is kind of a bummer. So this is the configuration you want to use. So, okay, so that's sweet. So we have two groups now. We have a top and a bottom. Lovely. Now I'm going to start to set this up so that I can animate it. Now I'm just going to give you a refresh, and this is a great technique, by the way. If you're ever like wanting to, if you see something cool online, you're like, yeah, that's cool. You can grab it. You can just drag the GIF over to your desktop. Awesome. And you can import that into After Effects. So if I import this now, I can import this GIF. And if you drag that GIF to its own composition, it'll give you its own thing. And now we can have a tool to kind of analyze what's going on here. Okay. So basically, I want to make sure everything is set up prior to animating. I don't want to be configuring stuff. So I have a couple more things to do to set this up so we're good to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my top is on and my bottom's off. I'm going to set this guy up. So I know that I want the stroke to have a round cap. You can see that right here. See that? It goes from butt to round, which is absolutely what I want. Okay, I'm happy with that. With the trim paths, I'm going to actually set this over to 0. And it's completely trimmed my path now, which is great. I'm going to back out of here a second. I'm just going to show you. So this like end thing here, this controls where it is. So I'm going to have that set to 0 so that it's just not showing up right now. It is going to show up later, but just not right this second. Okay, so that's all set up good to go. With my bottom layer here, I'm going to turn this back on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the fill here is going to be, the opacity is going to be set to 0. So we have the stroke, the fill, and I'm going to rename this. If you click title and hit return, you can call this the button of infinite dopeness, clearly, because that's what it is. I'm going to move that down. And where the old button layer is, if you just hit delete, you can just delete that layer. It doesn't delete it from After Effects or anything. It's just not in your comp anymore, which is totally fine. Now the send invitation, we can't see it because it's white on white. If I was to turn my fill back on here under my bottom path fill opacity 100, you would see that it's white and this checkbox is here. So I just wanted to show you, just in case you were doubting me. Dang. So I'm going to move this checkbox out in time right now. We don't need to work with it. So I'm just going to grab this layer and scoot it to the right. The send invitation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer style, which just works like the layer styles in Photoshop. I'm going to add a color overlay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's the same orange that I want for everything else. And I'm happy with that. And I think that's it. I think we're set up to go here. I'm just going to double check. I mean, we're just doing this exact same thing here. So cool. That's what it looks like. Okay, so the next step, you can see the background is going to turn on. It's going to animate on opacity. And the submit button, it's going to reverse its colors as well. So let's go back here and make that happen. So I'm going to go to my button of infinite goodness, back down to my contents, and let's start keyframing this. So I'm going to put a keyframe here for my opacity and jump over, say, 34 frames. You can't see, it's like hardly moved because I'm so zoomed out. So I'm just going to go here. Awesome. And I'm going to make this 100. Great. Now I'm going to go back to my send invitation, and I'm going to go to my layer styles, and I'm going to do my color overlay. And I'm actually going to basically do the opposite. So I'm going to have that start at 100. I'm going to create a new keyframe, then scoot it to the left and have this go down to 0. I could have done that with a simple expression, just rigged it and had it be, you know, minus 100 or something like that. Okay, so but that's what we got. Boom. So we got that first part of it. We're happy with that. Now the submit button gets like a little bit of a scale on it. You can see it like scales up and down. So we're just going to do a very quick version of that real quick. So I'm going to maybe jump out a couple frames, hit Option S on my keyboard. I'm losing my real estate, so I'm just going to hit U and then U again to bring everything back up. And I'm going to go over a couple frames and drop this down to like, I don't know, 95, say. And jump over a couple frames, go back up to 100. This is like not 1,000. Let's go 1,000 on this one. This is not the sexiest part of the animation, but we got it. All right, cool. And again, I'm just blocking this out. I'm not dealing with the velocity curves at this point in time. I'm just kind of creating what's going to be happening here. Okay, so now it scales in, or it doesn't really scale in, it transforms in. The path is going to change its shape, and that's what we're going to work on. The submit fades away, and the background fades away, and the stroke turns from green to gray. In our case, it's going to be orange to gray. So we got a few things going on here. So let's make that happen pronto. Okay, so we know that the background fill is going to change its opacity. So we want to keep this for this duration. So I'm just going to copy this keyframe, paste it here. What I can actually do is one step better. I can select these two keyframes because it has the data I want from 0. If I just double click this one's at 0 to 100. I can just select these, copy them, paste them here, and if I control click, I have a thing called Keyframe Assistant, Time Reverse Keyframes. Boom, and it actually just swaps those two keyframes, which is cool. So now watch, it just fades away. So it came on and then it faded away, which is great. Now I also want the stroke to change color as well, but let's work on this shape thing first. So I'm gonna go ahead and click and drag to select my shape, sort of. Now this can be a little challenging at times, I've noticed in After Effects, to get the shape actually selected. And sometimes you just gotta click around. I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes it's just really annoying, but you basically want to get it so it's in a path mode like this. Sometimes you just gotta get a little clicky on it. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the path shape as well. And because it's gonna be animating across both path shapes here, I want to make sure this one is selected and this one is also selected. So both of these path shapes are selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over 34 frames, or I can just hit K on the keyboard to jump to the next keyframe. And it looks like my selection point got lost. No matter, I'm going to select both of these and just bring it in, double check that it is on both of these keyframes. You can see they're both selected, which is great. If you have any problem with like where the middle is, you can turn on this little guide here and it turns on your action safe. It's just this overlay thing that's After Effects has built in, and it's just this little thing that helps sometimes. So I'm gonna, oops, I lost my little selection point here. Go back to my path here, here, and I'm just going to bring this in until it's right on the middle of this little cross guy right here, so I can make a perfect circle. So I'm just going to, I'm using Shift and my arrow key on the keyboard. I'm just scooching it in. Great, that looks close enough for government work. And now if I back off, I can see that it's the whole shape is transforming, which is really, really cool. Now I just need to make the send invitation fade out. So I'm going to go back up here, hit Option T for my send invitation, Option T, T for transparency, hit K, and then if I hit Command Shift O, not 0, but the letter O, and then I type in 0, that will actually fade for me. Cool, so that's that. Oh, but we didn't fade the stroke from orange to gray, so I'm going to go animate that right now. So in my stroke, in my bottom, I want to make sure I'm in the right place here. So bottom, stroke, twirl that down, and I'm going to animate this color. So I can have it start here. If I hit K on my keyboard for the next keyframe, then I can click the eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to wing it. I mean, you would typically have it like already designed, right, in your program, but I'm just going to wing it and say it's this light gray here. So now this fades down. Bam! All right. Lovely. And I'm going to hide this title action safe now. I no longer need it. So now what we have is we have this next part where this little guy comes and grows around it. And that's pretty sweet. Called Radial progress bar in some circles. Okay, so let's do the radial progress bar. So this is where the top thing comes in handy now, and I have this all set up for me. So I'm just going to go to my trim paths, go to my end. I'm going to keyframe this guy. So I have a start keyframe here. I'm going to jump over 34 frames, and I'm holding Command Shift left right arrow to jump 10 frames, and I'm going to have this just type in 100 right here. You don't even have to. You can just click and drag and see that it will automatically do that for you. If you just go like this, boom, if you can just click and drag in there, boom, 100, and you can't scroll past 100. So you can see now this grows on like a champ. Love that. All right, now next, what we're going to do is we're just going to scale it back out, and that check mark is going to pop on like King Kong. All right, so now the cool thing is we can actually reuse some of this shape layer keyframe. So this is getting a little wonky. I'm going to hit Command A to select all my layers, hit U, it's going to close everything, and hit U again, and it's only going to show me the modified properties, which gives me a little bit more real estate to play with. Now what I want to look for here are my paths, these two path keyframes. I'm going to grab these and do that same time reverse keyframe trick that we did. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command V, grab these guys, Command C, Command V, and I'm going to go to here. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. That goes around there. Yes. And I'm going to just control click. These two keyframes are selected, and I'm going to select these as well. I'm just going to control click, keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes. So now what's going to happen is they just go back to how they were. Pretty sweet, yeah? And now I'm going to reuse the same keyframes with this fill here, and I'm just going to do the same trick again. So I'm going to do Command C, Command V, make sure my playback head is where I want it, control click, keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes, boom, now it fades back up. I'm digging that, yo. And we're going to go and find that check layer. Where did that check button go to? See, I just buried it way over there. Who knows? So now I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to zoom in here to where I want it to start to come on. And with the check layer selected, if I just hit left bracket, it's going to slide the endpoint over exactly where I want it. And I'm just going to scale it up just to do a simple scale animation. So if I hit Option S, it'll bring up the scale keyframe. I'm going to push that over to the right because that's where I want it to end up is 100%. I'm going to start it at 0, comes in here, and you can see that just scales up with that beast. And that's how we build that sucker. Now I'm going to go through and just ease these real quick. So, when I teach how to do this, I talk about, like setup and preparation, step 1, blocking, step 2, just kind of having things happen where you want, and then messing with your velocity curves and timing after that. So if I hit N on my keyboard for end, I'm just going to preview this real quick. And sure, it works. It's all blocked out, but it hasn't been eased yet, right? So we're going to go ahead and ease all these guys. So if I select all these keyframes, I can control click one of them, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And now I can go ahead and just start to add some timing to it. So what I'll do just across all these is, let's see here. Let's just go ahead and start to add my easing. So we have my opacity here, select those, and select these guys, scale, cinematation, and I'm gonna, if I hit Command-Shift-K, it brings up my easing options, and I'm gonna have them ease in, let's just do something crazy, I don't know, 55 and 55. Let's just try this. I mean, we're kind of at the end of the lesson here, so I mean, you're probably not watching to watch me ease keyframes at this point, you know, but, you know, that being said, let's just get it looking dope before you you log off. And I've got my color here, and I'm gonna ease these. So I'm just hitting the property. I'm just hitting the property here, and that selects all the keyframes in the property. And if I hit Command-Shift-K again, it just brings up this keyframe velocity guy, 55, 55, and then this end guy here. Let's just do this, 55, 55. Okay, so hopefully this will look a little bit better now. Yeah, so there's a little bit more easing to it now, and so it looks more badass. So anyway, that's how you do that. Thank you for watching. I hope that totally demystified this process for you. In After Effects, there's a million ways to skin a cat. I did take a long time and go through every way you can do to create this, and I believe this is the best, coolest way to make this like animation happen. It's really simple, and it's really versatile. So good luck in your UI like animation projects. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.